India has asked the US to waive the diplomatic immunity of the American diplomat in the US embassy who used his tax exemption privilege to book tickets for Sangeeta Richards' family. If immunity is not revoked, he will be asked to leave the country. So a harsh step coming in from the Indian government. They're asking US to waive the diplomatic immunity on the American diplomat who actually used his tax exemptions to book tickets for Sangeeta Richards. Sangeeta Richards, remember, is the domestic help who was working with the Indian diplomat Khobragade, and it was regarding her visa application that the allegations of fraud were cited. We're getting a word from Maha Siddiqui on the phone line. Maha, another pressure tactic from the Indian government at a time when we actually thought that the case was heading towards a deep freeze, considering that Khobragade is on her way back to New Delhi.
Well, Simi, this is just reciprocity, as India is putting it. The way the US treats Indian diplomats, in a similar way, India says that it will treat diplomats of US in India. So the term they use is reciprocity. One could also, in colloquial terms, call it tit for tat, because this is just exactly what the US did with Devyani Khobragade after she was granted G1 visa. The US had asked for that immunity to be revoked so that charges could be pressed against her. But when India did not agree to that, she was asked to leave, and India brought her back to the country. India is bringing her back to the country. So in a similar case, the person whose privilege was, it's a diplomatic privilege, Simi, there is tax exemption on flight tickets for diplomats. So a diplomat's privilege was used for exemption on flight tickets to fly out Sangeeta Richards' family. And this was also a story headlines today had broken. We had shown the ticket details with tax exemption on them. So that was a privilege that was misused according to the Indian side. They have now asked the US to revoke the diplomatic immunity of that particular diplomat. If US refuses to do that, India will ask US to withdraw that diplomat of the American diplomat.
Right, and Maha, you know, this has been one of the controversial points in the story. India has accused the US of really orchestrating this, and Preet Bharara, in fact, had also admitted that he was in the know of the fact that Sangeeta Richards' family was being evacuated quite literally from India before pressing of charges against Khobragade.
Well, absolutely. India almost feels that it was a stab in the back from a friend, and that is why you have seen India react the way it has, by taking all the reciprocal measures right after Devyani Khobragade's custody and her strip search on the 12th of December. Because India felt that when two nations are friends, they can communicate messages to each other and not come down to the level of humiliating a diplomat, which is what happened to Devyani Khobragade. So now we have seen, and India also did not buy the theory that the State Department or the officials that India was in touch with were completely unaware of the fact that Devyani Khobragade could be arrested. So clearly this comes just as a reciprocal measure, as India would put it. The way they have treated Devyani Khobragade, India is now taking a strong stand, and it is continuing to build pressure to show that India will not take such behavior lying down.
Absolutely. So if it wasn't for any of the other pressure tactics, this is something that the US government is surely likely to respond to. Maha Siddiqui, thanks so much for that update. Now, after months of being in limbo, Devyani Khobragade was granted full diplomatic immunity by the US State Department. She in fact left New York and is on her way to India. The charges against her, though, still stand. She is still indicted in the visa fraud case.